Greetings. This is Professor Tarabishy from George Washington University. I am the Executive Director of the International Council of Small Business, and I'm the Deputy Chair of the Management of Department. We will start in 15 seconds. Let's start. We are delighted to have you here on the ICSB Exchange webinars. Today we are focusing on Europe in face of a crisis, tradition and innovation connect. I am extremely delighted to have Dr. Harmut Meyer, Business Administration and Entrepreneurship, to lead this session. Dr. Meyer, good evening. In Germany, how are you doing? How's everybody there?
Okay, thank you very much, Ayman. Yes, hello and welcome. Greetings from Germany. I'm here close to Hamburg, sitting here in my office, and I'm delighted that I'm able to talk to you about our experiences, about our situation during the Corona crisis or in the face of the crisis. My name is Harmut Meyer. I'm just lecturer and researcher at the Fachhochschule für Ökonomie und Management. It's a private organization where we just educate and escort particular part-time students. So that's why we have a real hand-on one side to the theory, to the teaching, but also on the other side to the economy, because my students work every day. And before the lesson here, because here we have in Germany now 11 o'clock p.m., so that means, okay, I had already 3 sessions of lecturing. Now, it's not a complete new experiences, but okay, I have the experience of doing all my lecturing and all my work now via the internet on web conferences. So I just said as well, okay, Europe, the land of hope, because by the end of the day, so Amy, would you be so kind just to give the next slide, please, or to move on? Yes. So what I want to know here, or what we like to give you with you. For us, a virus is absolutely new to us. We are not very much experienced to this one. And what we discovered here was the virus itself. It's a global problem, because we need jointly measures to control it, and as well to protect ourselves and to find measures against. But this is just a conflict which we just received now internationally. Although we are knowing it's a global problem, we need it first of all to protect our own people, to safeguard their health. And this just means that it requires a lot of national and regional measures. And this is something really new to us, because in Germany in particular, and Europe lives from globalization. We are forcing globalization. We are just promoting globalization. And all of a sudden, we have to turn around by 180 degrees and think that, okay, just in the first of all, we need now national and regional measures. Yeah. And this just gives us now a real discussion, and a lot of discussion are currently going on about globalization. What is the sense of globalization? What is the future of globalization? As well about sustainability, because we just say, okay, maybe, okay, we just get a break. We have now a rest. We came to a stop and to rethink much of the values as well in society. What is really important to the society? What we are personally aiming for? What are the aims of the customers? What are the aims of enterprises? And in particular, we find out now as well the role of the state. In particular, in Germany, we have called the system of social economy, which just means that the state itself should safeguard, on the one hand, a fair competition, but on the other hand, safeguard social welfare. So, and this is now really threatened in the fundamental things. So, what is the role of the state? What the state should do, and this is now as well, and then we're just coming up, okay, we need to enter, we need to redefine our ways of income generation. And so all of a sudden, it never happened in Germany because the internal intensity was quite low according to GEM and all other figures. And all of a sudden we found out, okay, we have got entrepreneurial spirit and we have innovation. A lot of companies just produce now any destitute measures or clothes or whatever, start to add new services, deliver services, and so forth and so forth. So at the moment, on the one hand, it's also very, very exciting time here in Germany and as well in Europe because we really redefine services and develop services. Please, the next slide, please. So, and the first beginning we had was a problem of attention. I just put on purpose this word masses. So Wuhan was just far away from us. Yes, it was just regarded as a Chinese problem as well. Okay, we had other things like China, bacteria. It was just in SARS. It never happened. The last biggest really thing was really the Spanish flu. And this graph shows you how dramatically, how we changed within 10 days, more or less, yes, or even a week. The whole situation changed completely, yeah, because I happened to be with Ayman 2 weeks ago in Washington. We were teaching both together entrepreneurship. During this week, for me, the whole world changed. We just entered America, and 2 days later, we were not allowed any to re-enter America. And we had to fear to come out. Yes, so particularly in Germany, 19% a week before we said, okay, a coronavirus will not affect a person, and it's not likely. 1 week later, more half of the population were fearing that they could be affected by the coronavirus. Similar in the US, but even, okay, still not so much. France, similar development. And even in the UK, where they just start now to realize the threat of this one, because they realize it's a threat because Prince Charles, I've heard about him, he is now affected as well. So it really comes as well to the heart of their society into it. Yeah. And that's just discovered. And now please the next slide, because this is just quite dramatic. As you can see from the World Health Organization, the hotspot of the coronavirus is not China, it is Europe. Yeah? Most of the countries have been dramatically affected to this one. And if you just see, okay, this was just taken out yesterday, yes, so it maybe changed the figures here. 81,000 cases were reported in China in relation to the population. You have to see it. Only in Italy, 63,000 cases have been reported by now. So in relation to the population, it's very, very high. Yeah, and United States is just increasing to this one. Even Germany, 30,000 cases. Yes, okay, it's less than Italy, and also in relation to the society. But still, it's just because Europe at the moment is the hotspot, and this just explains now the complete shutdown. Please, the next slide. And that's what I just think. Also here, you have got now the last 15 days, yeah, where we just had an increase of from 80,000 cases up to 220,000 cases. So this is just an exponential development. So in order to break down these ones here, it is just needed a completely isolation about this one. And because of the challenge we have here in Europe as well, in the US as well in China, and this is now the next slide into it, yeah, is to safeguard the healthcare system. Okay, I couldn't translate it so much quickly into German, but okay, the orange line just says, okay, if you just would uncontrol this one, there was in 1 week, the doctors have to decide who will survive this virus or he had to die. The reason why we're just saying is the capacity, and this is just the capacity of intensive care beds. This is just the measurement, the benchmark we have got. In Germany, we created now 36,000 intensive care beds. At the moment, we have still the capacity to take a few ones over from Italy and France and so on. So they are European-wide distributed. And we have got the capacity to add another 12,000. The money is just spent on this one here. But still, okay, it is just, it is a race. It's a race of time we are facing here. And this is just the thing. For example, hotels are now already booked for cases as well, other institutions towards this one. So the next slide. So the reaction by the governments was, okay, the strategy of social isolation or yes, personal isolation, whatever, in order to interrupt the risk of contamination. So the key date at the moment, we have got now for 1.5 weeks, almost 2. The key date in Germany is at the moment the 19th of April, so far after Easter. The whole nation is more or less put to quarantine. And we expect to release, yes, to go back to normal life in June. So the whole discussion is just okay to allow normal family life. But big events like football tournaments or football games, pop concerts, and so on, they have been more or less all abandoned or being cancelled at the moment, and there's no reason why most of the big events have been postponed for 1 year, and now even okay, the Olympic Games followed this idea. Yeah. So, but this was unanimously done, that everyone has to close down their borders, close down the frontiers within days and so on. And was just the next slide. Now we find in Europe a complete shutdown, a complete shutdown of social life, of public life, and a close down of economy. And here the next slide, I would just say, okay, what does it really mean into it? The first of all, okay, public life, all cinemas, theaters, and everything is just closed without no exemption. Schools, university, public transport is more or less closed to this one. Even, okay, holiday islands and holiday resorts are closed by high fines if you just enter those ones. The school teaching is now taking place at homes, while teachers send via the internet any working sheet. All of a sudden, parents become more now teachers themselves and evaluate this one. Yes, the close down of public events to this one. We have in Germany, and this is very, very surprising because the automotive industry is just the heart of our industry to this one. So here we had also a complete shutdown of the automotive production because we can't get any supplies, but also to reduce this one. And this is the hotel and catering industry, where I'll give you later an example. He has got the biggest problem because of the stop of now, okay, restaurants, consumption, and travel are just forbidden. A whole branch is more or less at the moment out of employment in this one. Currently, only shops for the daily requirements open, but even hairdressers and everything is closed. Only opens are food shops and things, and banks. That's all which is just at the moment open. Currently in Germany, only groups up to 3 persons are allowed. We have got more or less controlled leisure activities, which are more or less indoors, yes, and all activities are restricted to family groups. Here in Germany, okay, we don't have a complete stay at home. In France, even the measures have gone now far further. They just put since yesterday in the next level. There currently only one person is allowed outside the house, and he's only allowed 1 kilometer from his house and being alone. And if he just yeah suspends this one here, he gets fined by 135 euros, and the next time he gets trapped, okay, it's double up to even to put up into prison. The whole thing is really a violence act of hurt to other people if you don't stay at home. These drastic measures are going to be taken. At the moment, the current discussion, if you've just been infected, to control all your contacts via your a mobile phone. So at the moment, they're working by a law that now, okay, for this time, the Data Protection Act will be released so that they can use the data for your connection. And this is just on the next slide to give you just some pictures out of Europe into it. So, for example, here in Germany, you have got a current joke about toilet paper. Toilet paper is just sold out like crazy. Although we have got constant notice that there's enough food, there's enough services, and enough goods there. There's all closed. Public transport often closed down. People run out with masks. This was just a picture we know from China, but not here. And we have got on the borders now long waiting queues, in particular also for supplies due to the checks into this one. And at the moment, it's also quite interesting how now people react to crisis. What is a nation is going to buy? You can even make here now cultural studies about it. Yeah. So and what is going on? So this is just going on. The biggest change as well is in the next slide in Europe itself, in particular in Germany, our working life. Currently, we have got the biggest project going on to go digital, to go online with all our work. And this is all of a sudden, all services are used to teach digital like I'm doing, to meet digital like I'm doing, and so on. This is just tremendously and so on. And we just working at home, yeah. All our assembly halls and even the here our government and our parliament didn't met. There were only few people today allowed for big decisions, I'm explaining later. The rest were sitting in the offices and just contributed it via a headset to the discussion into it. And I found it very funny. Today, this afternoon, I had already 3 or 4 groups of students which I'm talking to. And they were just saying, okay, we were just wishing that everything this was going online and digital. But now, okay, we also value a classroom education because it's very, very hard and very difficult, and you need to be highly self-disciplined to do this one here, to be online, to do your own education, to stay on this one here. And this is sometimes quite a shock. So I believe, yes, this was just all in Germany, all far hyped, these things. So my expectation, but this is just my expectation in the face of this crisis. Yes, a lot of things will remain digital, but also it is just coming also the value of personal contact in education and so on will just going down. The next slide, please. So we found out that the German DAX, for example, like all other Dow Joneses, so dropped dramatically. So the economy in itself was interference, and also even the price of gold dropped by 25%. So the whole financial market is just went to turbulence. Yes, our planes, due to the communications, just stay on board. Company closed, like the big EU company, for example, Unilever, and the shutdown in Germany, in particular of the automotive industry, I think will just cause it like a domino day, because even in the 90s when we had this one, we had a lot of support to keep up the automotive industry as one of the key industries in Germany. And this one is not at the moment center of attention. It is just now, and this is quite very, very interesting to observe. It is now, okay, the small and medium-sized companies. So the status in Europe is, the next slide is, well, as we had as well from Kishan yesterday, also here it's all the same. We have got a shock because Europe wasn't known to any virus at all. China had experiences with SARS, yes. Africa had experience with Ebola. For us, it was all far, far away. So we don't have the real experiences. Then suddenly, of course, we joined with fear of an economic recession, of loss of income. And now, okay, I found as well in the whole spirit also entrepreneurial spirit, because people just saying, okay, we're going on a high space in this our economy, in such an innovation-driven economy, in a very, very high space. And now we find time to breathe, to stop, to calm down, and to rethink things. So if we just follow, I just followed up now these various stages, yeah. The biggest shock, in the next slide, please, was in Europe, that we had the central problem, yeah. We were used of free traveling, of a high degree of personal freedom. It was just so central in Germany as well as lots of other countries in Europe. And we had these freedom was also guaranteed, these human rights according to our constitutional law. And particular now to abandon this one here, to restrict these rights due to health reasons, due to this virus, due to this pandemic. But still, that we certainly experienced governmental force to reduce it. These ones we were not used at all since the Second World War. So over 75 years ago, we had this one here. And this was just now the shock, the next slide. But this is more or less similar to every country, and we just have this series, yes, is the personal isolation. We were reduced to the house, social contact take only place via social network. And this is just quite amazing how people now chat up on WhatsApp and using other instruments to communicate. And this is just a lack of communication as well. It was also a shock that suddenly we discovered, yes, our community is coming first. Yeah, it's not the big company, it's not Greece, it's not America, it's not Africa or whatever. Suddenly, our community needs to react, and they reacted on their own with our mutual consultation. This is just very, very new experiences. Yes, we can handle things this one. And at the moment, there's sometimes just a race. Who is first? Who does this? Who does this? Who is going to release? So somebody just pushes ahead, and often people just follow. And if you see the measures now in Europe, of personal protection and so on, yeah, yes, you will find that these measures, one is just stepping ahead without consultation, but very, very quickly after within few hours, others follow. Sorry, as well. This is just quite amazing just to observe. At the moment, only Britain is just staying away, but suddenly they realize now as well that the virus has since long arrived also to Great Britain. Yeah, and this is just the damage to the health. Yeah, so the risk of the virus becomes more apparent, and suddenly all we just discover, every contact could be just now a risk to each other. So this is also the wish at the moment of a little bit of um, distancing. And there's a struggle of information in the internet, and the communication just takes now place on the social media or an institution. It more or less fears, and Macron and even in Spain, the prime minister said, okay, we are just in war against the virus, against an unknown enemy. Okay, we in Germany, we don't use these words, but more or less it feels like that because lots of rights are put back now to the government and so, and these measures are only allowed to take back once we are involved about it. That's quite an, so the fears, yes, at the next slide, where again, okay, the basic fear was economic recession. So our strong economy, the pride of Germany, now appears to be in recession. Our economy is the heartbeat of Europe. Yeah, we're strong enough to safeguard Greece. We were strong enough to support Spain and so on. And suddenly our economy, yes, is just coming to a recession. So people were fearing employment. They're feeling, okay, they're running out of money, need to file for insolvency. So how we get integrate, where we stand, medium and small and medium-sized enterprises. This was quite at the beginning a big issue, because all the focus was just led to the automotive industry, aerospace industry, and other industry. Small, micro, and small, medium-sized enterprise. Yes, they were there. We know, okay, we have 96% of all enterprises are belong to this group, yeah. But still, they were not. These power were not recognized. And just to go ahead, I'm quite proud at the moment as well for the ICSB that this has changed, yeah. And we were all knowing, yeah. And this is just makes now this time so vital. So we just got out of the shock modus. Yeah, if you just see of Levine or so, now we are changing. Yes, something is happening in our lives, and we will not return back to status quo. Yeah, something will change, but at the moment it's very exciting where it's changing. In the end, I just give you some guys here. So in the next slide, so the concentration at the moment of public attention, public measures, yeah, is to safeguard, to put an umbrella on small and medium-sized enterprises, on sole practice, in order to safeguard the liquidity or solvency, in order to safeguard employment, in order, and this is just the key for an economy, consumer consumption. So if the internal consumption is lacking, this is just, okay, the motor. We discovered it already in Germany in many smaller crises. And also to give security, to give confidence that that will not happen so worse, and as well to maintain entrepreneurial motivation. And now, okay, I will just show you a few measures we have taken here in Germany. So the first measure, and that's where I put myself, is I was making myself, because I'm also, besides and deeply involved for small business consultants in the federal board, as well as the federal board of the hotel and catering industry, which is now suffering a severe crisis because of the complete shutdown. Yeah. And I just made just a video. And even I never experienced it. The next day, I got calls from people. Oh, thanks for explaining this. Thanks for giving me measures and so. We were just looking it up. It was just, and I only explained the current situation, why it happened, what are public measures are taken, and also which measures they can take to reduce the necessary payments. I tell you, and what are the first steps? It's just amazing now. Okay, how digital things go. Even okay, at the moment, our system break together. So, for example, next slide for the instant measures we're going to take here up is that we have the suspension of the need to file for bankruptcy, a suspension to pay income taxes. But this is often the same. Suspension to contribute for social security system, suspension to pay insurances, allowance to reduce electricity payment, and so forth and so on. So that there's a problem that everybody gets support. Yeah. The best next slide. The main thing people need to learn at the moment, and this is what's quite difficult to explain, that also a crisis. Yeah, is just for small and medium-sized companies not to put their heads down. It is the need of communication, to go out, to keep communication in order to keep your own wheels running. And the main theme, the next slide, is that cash is king. This is just something which we just lost focus out of all about it. Now in the next slide, because I'm just watching the time a bit, is what is now our attitude, and to explain a little bit also, in particular in Europe, but I heard it as well, things happen to as well in America, the demand of deficit spending towards this one. And here you just find that all the time, yeah, when we had the red dotted line, just says, okay, financial stress. So when just financial stress occurred, and I just like to draw your attention to 2009, because this crisis is mainly aware to us. Yes, all of a sudden was that the growth of GDP dropped quite and got even negative. So it was a fear of recession. And here as well in Germany, with a lot of money, a lot of guarantees and so on, we safeguarded this crisis. So we just had here as well the idea of deficit spending, and huge deficit spending. And this was just now only allocated to banks. And now, okay, we're doing the same more or less for the real economy to this one. And now next slide, we find here in Germany a particular measure which is just more or less unique. I haven't found it in other countries at least. Maybe you can correct myself. This is a short-term payment support. Now, 95% of all companies use this one. This is just an old law we just had, which just got renewed, and all the bureaucracy just has been skipped away within a few hours by the parliament in order to allow instant help. If you just have a crisis, and this is not a crisis due to seasons and so on, you are allowed as an employer to reduce the working hours and then accordingly the payment. And so you have now a comparison of a net income of an employer, why he has full employment or 100% employment, and now maybe reduced. For example, if he has got a net contribution of 1,000 euros per month, now with working only 50%, he only gets now maybe 600 out of it. So the government, the Department of Labor, will fill up the loss of 400 euros by 60% for singles and 67% for families. So they don't need to fear any social losses and so on, and any social problems. And this one has been extended now for the next 12 months because we more expected that the coronavirus and the effect to the economy will come in waves. And now in the beginning, okay, we were not prepared for this one here. So that's why the instant measures took quite a bit to this one. But okay, we're just expecting still that this is not the first run to this one here. And so currently 90% have already applied. So we just say, okay, Germany is a nation on short-term payment support. Yeah? The next slide. Germany is organized by federal states. And so I'm quite happy to say, because we're really into the whole movement, today or yesterday, the federal state loans programs. And at the moment on the state banks, even the system broke down because SMEs can employ. And this is just not absolutely new. Apart from short-term payment and so forth, yeah, every company, without disregarding the solvency of the company, get 9,000 euros for 3 months in order to pay the rent and other expenses. Yes, so this has just been brought up by 5 employees, by 10 employees, 15,000 up to 49 employees, 20,000. Yes, and this is just to safeguard the solvency. The next bit is, even today, and this way runs through Parliament. The next slide, please, Ayman. In the federal government today, a 156 billion euro program has been decided in both chambers within 2 hours. This is more or less 20% of our public finance. Yeah, so we just there was an exemption now to our constitutional law to allow again deficit spending, because since a couple of years we had by law the black zero, we call it, so that the income and the outcome of the income and the spending of the government needs to balance. Yeah. This has been now exempted due to the financial crisis of 2009. This was one of our lessons. Yeah. And so as micro and small, medium-sized enterprises, this is just state in the law now, get direct subsidies and a lot of loan guarantees. Yes, so to allow more loans to this one to safeguard their existence. Yeah. Of course, there are also further support should be given to hospitals and healthcare institutions. And now, okay, on the next slide, we find as well that the European Union, yes, is just a race. Yeah, they just discussing at the moment. It hasn't been agreed a 450 billion program. Also subsidies to micro and small, medium-sized, and also the European Union, yeah, just said, okay, we just allow now to retain from the strict financial requirements of balancing or restricting public debting and so on. So, but there is still at the moment here in Europe, okay, we have got now the internal border control, that the border control will remain. Also, this nationalization trends are not fearing at the moment. This is quite a shock that we just have to do this one, but so there's just discussion whether it still will be released within 3, 6, 9 months and so on. Yeah, because but still it is expressed, and this said that the trade within the European community still flows at the moment as huge, and the European community put a lot on effort, on joint effort to support research and development in this area and to coordinate even healthcare initiatives to this one here. In Europe, the next slide, but still, and this is now a big discussion, is now how we going to behave, how we going to treat micro and small and medium-sized companies. Because on the one hand, we have got, we want to give support and subsidies, but on the other hand, we don't want to interfere into market force and market selection. So not to make weak companies through this crisis strong again, or who just maybe get restructured within this period. But on the other hand, due to this crisis, no company should also not file for bankruptcy. This is at the moment now a benchmark towards this one. And this is at the moment still, okay, a big problem and a big issue we just going to discuss at the moment. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. And we find here at the moment in Europe, and this is also an attitude, yeah, that of social change of social perceptions. Yeah, there's a new social feelings coming on. This makes it now so interesting. So more or less we were saying of an elbow society and so on. And suddenly we find that public statements without saying thank you to the workers and the healthcare retail. Yeah? And it started in Spain, but it went like a wave throughout Europe. Yet that at 9 o'clock, people stand on the balcony and applause to say thank you for the report. Yeah? So there's a new feeling of a collective nation and gratitude. Yeah, and as I said, yes, we realize the importance of MSMEs because suddenly, if their services are not there, if the hairdresser is not there, if corner shop is not there, if my local pub is not there, and so on and so on, my school is not there, yeah, my life is just empty. And this is just gives everybody a new feeling and to rethink about the importance to this one here. Next slide, please. Yes, so what are the future implications? At the first place, we have got a medical hope, yeah. Okay, a lot of effort is putting in. There are 2 or 3 institutes known to be very close to have a vaccine, so to have a drug. But okay, at the moment, they're also going even on public TV on reliable sources, going on that also interim solution will ease the development of the coronavirus infection. And these are already known drugs which fight against Ebola, SARS, COVID-3, HIV, known from cancer research. So in particular of the Ebola ones, is now the drug is now being tested and seen as a very good alternative, at least to ease this one, so that the disease just doesn't affect it so much towards this one. This is one of the first implications for this one here. But okay, the next implication is one here, is now the main drivers. Next slide, please. Is now that we just the drivers for change and innovation. And this is now, okay, the change of values, the new opportunities, innovation, combined with digitalization. But in the end, we just found out, and this is just surprising, once Europe, once Germany got digital, yes, we just striving more for humane entrepreneurship. So the people are the key of success, independently, whether we are online or in the real world. Yeah, people are those ones who are then just come down here and bring it up to this one. And this is just a real big experience to this one. So as well, we have just next slide, please. I'm expecting this is now more or less hypothesis, and for us as a researcher, and one also just coming up, that government, the central role is, what is their central role to maintain social welfare, how far they can go. We are really surprised that they're able to suddenly to make decision and to act unanimously. This is just causes a lot of respect to this one here, that they were able, the role and the reduction of bureaucracy in one day or another. Germany is just known for it as bureaucracy. Yeah? And certainly, yes, the support of a strong and big governments. Yeah? This is just something we just more or less through our federal state was released. Yeah, also banks. We just have got at the moment a discussion is coming up about the Basel regulation 1 to 4 now at the moment, which threatened and penalized the micro and small and medium-sized enterprise. On the one hand, it made our financial system very strong, and there are a lot of other good wires to this one here. But all of a sudden, we found also the exploitation, all this algorithm to protect things just changed. So we can't now, with the experience of the views, with the information of yesterday, now to evaluate this new situation. Yeah. And also there's for the independence of banks is just coming up. Yeah. And their attitude. Yeah. Because micro and small, most banks were just known that they were neglecting this micro and small and medium-sized enterprises, and they're just focusing more to big ones because of costs, overhead costs, little profit margin. But all of a sudden, this one, at the moment, this has been realized. That's why we have state banks, and state banks are not like in other countries. They're only all there to administer public and governmental programs. Sometimes they just work even together with the private banks. And all of a sudden we found, no, if we want to read micro and small enterprise, we need to enforce these institutions. It's a very, very interesting observation we're just going to make. And as well, authorities. Suddenly, they just need to find agile administration. We need to change. We need to see the problem and then the rules, and not the other way around. Yeah, and as well as the information. Next slide, please. Yes, and this is now with this coming up. I just can just recommend you to read the pages of the World Economic Forum. This is just now where we as a researcher need to go on all these impacts, and I just like to filter a few ones out. Next slide, please. So this is just now expected content is now okay. Capital demand will stress this one. So where's the money? Investors, due to the breakdown, will look for new opportunities. At the moment, the state market proves still reliable. Yeah. Home office will become the new normal. That is what we need to find now. What defines work, but also to find a balance between working at home and living at home. Yeah. But the key also for new economic growth and increased wages to follow it up is productivity. So how are we going to find a new way of productivity? How we increase our productivity? Yeah. So globalization, yeah, just restructured this one, the trends, and will much more change now the discussion in a new light, since we have now the last 5 years due to the Brexit. Yeah. And as well with fiscal policy, yes, due to the big promises governments give, yeah. So and most of them stay in guarantees, yes. So, but okay, we will just see how much of the money will be needed and how much then in future taxes will take place, yes. And but still, okay, it's expected that it will reduce public spending. Next slide, please. Yes, the one thing is also traveling. Yes, so one we find go back, and we had trends here in Europe of over tourism. Yeah, so things come down. So the aviation industry still already fearing problems of due to sustainability. Yes, we expect now strong effects that this year, okay, 2020, this will just close down. Yeah. And as far as the international trade, it will slow down because Germany or Europe in the south are strong economies. So how much will affect other recessions like we had in China, and maybe we find as well in the US, how it will hit Europe, how it will hit international trade, because how it will affect their internal consumption rate as the key for international trade. Yes, and consumption. So the implications to innovation is certainly okay now to find. Next slide. the local trends. Yeah, it's a lot of things which are just going up to biochemistry. Yeah, health is one of them. Of course, digitalization, and as well how to find more agile business models. Yes, to be more, really more closer to this one here. Okay, now next slide to finish it up to allow this one here is I'm pretty proud about this thing that the heart and the pulse of the economy is very turned back to entrepreneurship, and we discovered it. This is just, we were just got back, and this is what I was saying. In this picture, I like to hope you remain is micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise. And the future entrepreneurship, next slide, is that we need to combine tradition, innovation, digitalization into humane entrepreneurship on the basis of economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. So, okay, next slide, please. I'd like to thank you for your kind attention. I'm happy to answer now your questions towards this one here. And I put up here a little picture I had this morning when I was driving to one of my clients. Yes, it's just remarked for me that at the moment we have a very frosty and icy situation because I'm living here in the fruit area, and once we get frozen and still okay, we have already springtime here, the start to breeze. Then okay, we have got this watering of the plants. So it's that has got watered, and so it was frozen. But okay, we still have a blue sky. The sun is showing us we are going the way ahead to a very, very interesting, and I think in the end a good future. I believe one day we will thank you, Corona, that you just gave us attention to rethink and to reorganize ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hartmut. This was extremely powerful and a very well presented webinar. And what I like to do now is for all the webinar attendees, if you have a question on the right-hand side of the webinar, you might see a question section or a chat section. Please enter your questions, and what we'll do is we'll go through as many of them as possible. So I'll give you a minute or two to write your questions. But what I like to do is, Dr. Hartmut, ask you a question here. Let me start with a question for you. Taking everything that you see happening in Germany here, what's going to happen? What do you see in the next year or two? What's your feeling? Not what the data says, but what do you think in your heart will really happen to MSMEs and SMEs and Germany as a whole in the next couple of years?
Well, the next couple of years, okay, micro and small and medium-sized companies become more self-confident, become more proud of this one, that they were able to survive such a big crisis. And as well, it just retained more or less the entrepreneurial spirit, yeah, that they also go back to their own bones in order to make their business, in order to find this one here. But also that nothing is secure towards this one, so that we just need to redefine, to be more visualized. We just woke up here in Germany. We woke up in Europe. We have been very prosperous. We have had a very, very strong economy. We have the lowest unemployment rate. We have a high income. But also these things are not guaranteed forever. So we need to fight for things. We need to put stress on health. We need to put stress on education. We need to get back our infrastructure. And that's what we need to have in more space. Because Germany, that's what I'm just thinking will change now dramatically. Yes, we can abandon this one. And if it just threatens, we can make very, very quick decisions. We in Germany were all looking to China, how quickly they can invest, how quickly they can build up an infrastructure, why we can't do this one. And suddenly we said, if we are just threatened, we can do it. So I hope really that this remains, and we tackle the fundamental problem of infrastructure digitalization to this one. And the people just saying, okay, entrepreneurship is the key to this one here. So we have to maintain entrepreneurship.
Okay, so there's questions flooding in here. So let me ask you a question here that comes. Why should we call them small businesses or micro businesses? What we're starting to realize here that all these businesses that employ less people than big businesses are really in reality social businesses. They are the fabric, they are the cohesion, they are the DNA of society. Why don't we just call them social businesses and tell them this is what makes this society work? And in that term, we can think of them as social or not for profit or whatever you might do it. But the wording needs to be a little bit clearer here now, because what we're realizing here is that they are the glue that puts society together. What's your reaction to this?
I hope I understood now the question correctly to this one. The glue of the society which put it together are the micro companies. They're not all social enterprises. There's also traditional enterprises. But they are just they were the one who made big companies strong because of a lot of the services, of the innovations, about their ideas to bring it up. And this suddenly just came up that if they just drop down, even our big companies, they just will drop down. And they if they just fall out in total, the whole group, yes, our economy will break down. And this is just what we just discovered into here, and that's why they got so much attention at the moment. This is just quite surprising.
So this is now I see some students asking questions here, and they're great. So they're jumping in, and I see some of the students are from GW too. So what do you think as a professor that you just suddenly got lifted from traditional class teaching to now to online? What's your role as a professor, but as also a leader in the community? What do you think you should do? Engaging with the government, engaging with the students, with the businesses. What do you think you should do as this ambassador for SMEs?
As ambassador for the SMEs, yes, I should just do what I'm doing just currently at the moment is to provide them their information in this situation, to safeguard this one, and to foster innovation, just to build up the networking, to get their bones right, but also that they just focus on their key competences. And the key competences is to really to react very, very quickly to market. And this is just shown so much that they just can switch quickly and say, okay, this is a new situation. We need to change our income structure, and then we just go ahead. You can see it a lot in the production area, also in the craft area. The only way where you can't see it, but they aren't reacted, is the hotel and catering industry, because they just need from socializing. And if you just put down this fundamental thing that socializing is not, they can't react.
Okay, so there's a very strong question that came here saying we're telling everybody to go digital, to go use technology, but somebody reminded us not everybody has technology or can be able to go digital. How do we lessen the gap between the people that have technology versus the people that don't have technology?
Well, I don't think, okay, the rate of digitalization in Germany is quite high, but the only problem we have got here is that our systems are not so stable, and that's what we discovered at the moment. Now, I don't think that there's a real gap or the hesitation to go to digital. But still, okay, as I said, and that's what the students discovered as well, classroom teaching, classroom, this one, or face-to-face, yeah, I have a direct leader saying it to me. So now digital teaching to education just requires from me much more own discipline. And do I have this own discipline to work through the subject, to organize myself and to prepare myself to this one? Because the teacher can't react to my situation. That's why I found it out. So if I want something, I need to ask. I need to challenge it as well. And this is now the biggest problem to this one. If I'm standing in a classroom and I see, okay, the students didn't understood what I was just saying, what I was just explaining. I can see it in their faces and I repeat it. If I'm digital, I can't see it. If they even, and so they just need to say to me, I don't understand this one. Can you just repeat it? Can you just do it again? And this is just one, even tonight, students were just saying this to me.
There's a question that came here that said, we know very clearly that the service industry has been hit very hard. But what do we do with SMEs in particular in the service industry? How do we address this? How can we help them more?
We just can help them only more if they just now rethink their business models to bring down either in digitalization to attract to this one here in the hotel and catering industry to change if the people can't come to me, so I can bring it the food and the services to the other places, to use other logistics to bring it up to this one here. This is just the same. And so I need to I'm just quite fond about the idea of the blue ocean strategy. Say, okay, so what makes it a difference to this one? What are now our non-customers and how we can just say design the services to our customers?
Great. Yesterday we started this, and I'm going to continue today, hopefully, with a tradition here. I'd like you for the last minute or 2 minutes, if you like, to capture your presentation here and to speak to all your colleagues, your students, your friends, and in German, to summarize your presentation. And you present excellently in English, but to do it in German and capture it for a time capsule here. So you have 1 minute or 2 minutes. The floor is yours to explain everything you want in German, and we'll listen in.
Ich bedanke mich recht herzlich für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit. Den Kernsatz, den Sie eigentlich mitnehmen möchten, ist, den es auch ein Lebensmotto ist für mich. Okay, wir müssen lernen, nicht auf Sonne zu warten, sondern im Regen zu tanzen. Das heißt also jetzt nicht warten, bis andere uns die Lösung bieten, sondern uns zwar die Hilfen annehmen, aber am Ende selbst die Lösung annehmen. Und der Mittelstand kann es, wenn wir ihn jetzt lassen. Aber wir müssen auch uns stärker die Fesseln des Mittelstandes lösen. Recht herzlichen Dank.
Dr. Harmut, we want to thank you on behalf of ICSB and globally, and also I personally thank you for your time and effort and excellent presentation here. For all those attending, we want to thank you for coming. Tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Savings Time, we will have the editor of the new journal of ICSB, the Journal of the International Council for Small Business, and Tom Conway, the editor as well from Taylor Francis, to come in to talk about our new journal, which I think timing-wise is just absolutely perfect. With all this new issues coming up, with all this world is changing, this journal is the bridge between research, policy, and practice. So if you're interested in joining, please sign up at the ICSB Exchange. Come with ideas. We're going to have more discussion tomorrow about ideas that you're interested in the journal and how you can help. And finally, as this exchange is growing more and more people are watching in, if you have an idea for a webinar or would like to work on a webinar, please do not hesitate to contact me with some ideas and we'll work together. With that, I want to thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we'll end the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well, and stay healthy. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.